Just gonna switch over and say hi everyone. Welcome to our live video series today. It's day 15, believe it or not. Oh my god, I just can't believe it. It's been 15 days. We started on September 5th, and today is what? I'm losing time. I can't remember the day of the week, but we're on our way to Aaliyah and Michael's wedding day, which is on October the 5th. Okay, October the 5th. So today, as I stated, we're going to talk about how to hire the photographer. Okay, hi Sean, welcome. How to hire the photographer and possibly a videographer. Whether you hire one or both, it depends on your budget. Okay, yesterday we talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about the tux for the groom. Okay, we wanted to make sure you didn't forget the groom. We usually wait for that task at the last minute because we're thinking it doesn't take much time. But Leah and Michael don't really have a lot. They only have a month. Hi Jazz, welcome. So yesterday we talked about how to go through the process of deciding on a tux, whether it's a tux or a suit, and then just going out and searching for that tux or suit. Okay, so if you want more details on that and some recommendations on some shops in your neighborhood or online company that also does the same, just check out our video from yesterday, which is day 14. Okay, so you know how I am. I like to talk a little bit and show you a little bit. And I like to show you more than I talk because I believe in being visual and allowing you to see some things. Sorry you can't touch right now, but at least you can see some of the things that I'm talking about. Okay, so Aaliyah and Michael, of course, do want a photographer. They want a professional person to document their day, from the time that Aaliyah gets up and starts her makeup with her MUA or her makeup artist and getting her hair done and all those things with her girls, to the time that they leave the reception hand in hand. Yay! Okay, so they want to make sure, in their eyes, this is one of the most important things that they will pay for, and they don't mind paying a little bit more for this vendor than any others, because if you don't have any memories, if you don't have any record of what happened on that day, other than what you can remember in your head, which will be a total blur for them, then it's just like 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years from now, you're like, oh my God, we have nothing to remember that day. So you want to make sure that you invest in, with as much money as you can within your budget, a professional, a known, a seasoned photographer. Okay, so I know some of us are on budgets, maybe not, but for those of you who are on budgets, you still need to invest. You need to put a lot of money into that photographer. I've heard so many horror stories of people, of couples hiring their cousin, their sister's brother, cousin, someone just learning right out of school, or just amateur, just starting out. This is not something you want to play around with. I'm sorry. I mean, I know that everyone has to start somewhere. I agree. I know that everyone does. I had to start somewhere. You did too, in whatever aspect of your life. But this is too important to mess up. Okay? I personally know of a couple who had a wedding, hired a photographer, and for whatever reason, all the photos were gone. For whatever reason. I'm not sure what the reason was. It really doesn't matter. Bottom line, they didn't have any pictures. Okay? So you want to invest in your wedding photographer, and you want to make sure that you find that person first and book them, especially if they're very well known in your area. Okay, so some things to consider in reference to the photographer. Now, we said photographer or videographer. Okay, Aaliyah and Michael are going to hire just the videographer. Okay, in their eyes, that's all they need. They don't need a movie or video of everything that happens. Now, sometimes, and they're all a lot of times, there's someone at the wedding that may take some video clips of different aspects of the wedding, and that's fine. So they'll be able to see that in that respect, but they didn't want to invest in a personal tape of their or personal video of their day from beginning to end. The photos will suffice. Okay, so they're not going to invest in the videographer. But what you'll find when you're looking for a photographer, they also have that skill set as well. So you may be able to get a 2-for-1. They might have a package that encompasses a little bit of both. Maybe 70% photography, 30% videography. So when you're looking at photographers, you're going to look at their package and see what they offer. So we're going to focus on the photography part of things. Now, what you first want to do is find out, based on your venue, there's several ways that you can find that photographer if you don't have a reference from, a personal friend, family, or coworker that has work or knows of this photographer's work. So if you don't have that reference, what you can do is get a recommendation from your venue or one of your vendors that you've hired, your wedding planner, or in Aaliyah and Michael's case, their venue, the Moshula, has a recommended vendors list or a preferred vendors list. Most vendors do have a list of folks they work with or that they know do good work, and they can vouch for them because they worked many weddings or events with that particular vendor. So that's one of the first places to start. Start on that vendors or that venues list of preferred vendors to select maybe 3 to check out their website, their package, compare price, compare what is involved in that package before you make your decision. And of course, you'll be also looking at their portfolio and reference to figuring out if they're a good match for you. Also, look at their style. That is very important. Okay, photographers, everyone has to learn how to use the camera and all the different ways that encompasses lighting, things like that. But each photographer has their own style and their own way of seeing that perfect image. Okay, so you want to find a photographer that matches your style or what you're looking for. So we'll talk through the different styles that are out there, and that'll be a way to also make that selection of about 3 folks that you make appointments with and make a selection on your photographer. So now that we gave you a general overview of how to start your process, I have something to show you that will talk us through all the types of questions you may ask, and before that point, how to select a photographer based on their style and other aspects. So we're going to switch over to that bit of information. It's a really cute infographic that I found that walks you through how to select a photographer. And then we're going to actually go to a photographer site that I really love. He's part of my wedding collective, and I follow his work. He's not only a really good guy, but he does good work. And he does photography and videography. So we'll show you his site and what he offers after we go through some of the basic steps. So let me switch over. There we go. Okay, so as I stated, I have a little infographic here that will show us some basic questions and basic elements of a wedding photography package and things to look for. Okay, so first, how much does a wedding photographer cost? That's the biggest question, because you're going by a budget that you've already set up, and you don't want to max out or go too much over on your budget. Otherwise, you'll have to pull from somewhere else. Okay, so typically in this example, the average photographer price is $2,400, but that's the average. You can find packages depending on your budget as low as I've seen in various cities and states. And remember, with everything depends on city, state, county in reference to your price. But I've seen it as low as $700. That's really, really low. And of course, mid-range, $1,500, $2,000. Okay, on the mid-range is the $2,400, something about $3,000. And on the high end, for platinum brides or someone who wants to invest a lot of money in their photography to make sure they get the best photos or the style and that they want from this particular photographer, 5,000 plus would be on the high end. Okay, and of course platinum brides can pay probably $10,000 for a photographer. Money's no object for them, but 5,000 and up is on the high end in reference to a photographer. Now all those prices are going to depend on the package, okay? But before we talk about the package, let's talk about, okay, what kind of photographer am I looking for? Because there's so many different ones out there. All right, so what kind of photographer? You have your boutique style photographer, okay? They're the high end. You're usually the most expensive photographer out there. So they're the ones that probably start at 5,000. Okay, so platinum brides, celebrities. Then of course you have your standard full service wedding photographer who's going to offer just about everything, because they probably have videography. They also probably have photo booths. They have a lot of add-on options, and they do between 50 and 30 weddings. So if it's full service, you're not talking about a one-person shop. Typically, you're talking about a business that has at least 10 folks, and they have 3-4 weddings every weekend. Okay, so that's full service. And then you have your part-time photographer. So this is the guy or gal who is working during their side hustle. Okay, so they have a full-time job, but on the weekends and in the evenings, they're a full-blown photographer, and they have a great business. So nothing against, don't stop yourself if you find someone who does this part-time. You know, they have a full-time job and their side hustle is photography. We have a lot of folks, I think the common model of work this around this time of our lives are people who are working side hustles. They're doing their full-time job, their 9 to 5, because that's what they do to pay the bills, but then they're doing their dream job and hopefully to switch that over to the full-time job on the weekends and the evenings as a side hustle. Okay, then you have your professional non-wedding photographer. Okay, and they're the ones that they do photography for weddings, but they also are into landscapes and editorials and things like that. So they have a wide variety of skills. They're not just wedding photographers. Then you have your film shooter. Now this is where you can get really good shots. They're totally non-traditional, okay, and the way that they actually approach your wedding picture taking. It's all about getting just that unusual, that unique, not standard traditional shots, like the person standing in front of the barn, okay, the wedding party standing all together, left and right, bride and groom in the middle, all standard shots. If you want something that's out of the box, out of the ordinary, then there are different photographers that will fit that particular mode or style that you're looking for. Okay, so those are several of the different types of photographers out there. I'm going to skip that and go down to some of the questions you should ask. So make sure, and I think this is common though, you shouldn't have to ask, but it's okay to ask, okay, do you work with someone else? Typically they do. They can't carry all that equipment and lighting and everything on their own. A photographer, a good one, always has an assistant. At least one, sometimes two, okay? And so you want to find out, are they available the entire time of your wedding? from the time that you take your makeup. Don't assume that they are going to show up. You have to make that clear that you want them to be there at 6 a.m. if you're having a noon wedding, or 12 o'clock if it's an evening wedding. You have to be specific with the timing. When it comes to their packages are based on time. How long would they be there? So typically they have a 4-hour wedding, 6-hour, and then at max 8 hours. The average wedding lasts about 6 hours. Okay, so of course those prices are going to have a range based on how many hours you need them to be there, and based on that you'll get unlimited photos. At minimum, you'll get the automatically the assistant comes in there, but the add-ons are when you want the album, when you want touch-ups, when you want your wedding in a slideshow maybe, or you want to take those pictures and make it out of a video. So you get into video, you don't get a videographer, but it's the same thing. You're getting a video. All those are different add-ons that you can request on top of the flat rate. The other thing that will happen, your photographer needs your information. So as it gets close to the time frame, once you've signed the contract, given them the deposit, then they need to know, of course, they're going to ask you questions as far as where it's at, and that's initial. That'll be part of your contract. They'll ask you where the ceremony reception will be, the time, when you need them to be there so they can determine the hours, and that's when they'll give you the rate, and that'll be on the contract, how much that will cost based on those hours. And they will also let you know what the flat rate is and any add-ons, any additional costs that will be needed. Once the wedding is over, what will happen, you typically will get back either a thumb drive. Some still go old school and give you a CD, and right now, guys and gals, we are pretty much out of the CD realm of things. Everything is either online or you get a thumb drive. People don't even use thumb drives anymore. So if you have a photographer that's really on their technology side of the business, then what they should be doing is pointing you to an online library where you can download all the pics you want, and then you have an option of getting it on a CD or a thumb drive if you want something you can touch. But typically all those photos will be available on an online library, and you will be able to download and download as many as you want. Now some photographers will charge you for downloads if they've given you the thumb drive and the CD. So it depends on what kind of package and what photographer suite studio that you're dealing with, based on their policy and procedure. After the wedding, as I stated, it typically takes them 2 to 6 weeks. It depends on, well, not 6 weeks, 2 weeks to a month to get your pictures back. It takes some time. Some folks, if they're really busy, it might be longer than that, but they have a standard time frame in reference to getting those photos back to you, because it's not like, oh, they're all on a file and they're just going to dump it and make it available to you. But if you want touch-ups, you want them to get rid of the red eye, and you have to get rid of background, unnecessary background. There's a lot of touch-up that's involved, and it takes time. So that's why you won't see those pictures until 2-4 weeks after the wedding, unless you pay them extra for a rush job. Then you'll get them a little quicker. Okay, so that's typically how you select a wedding planner. So before we leave tonight, I want to show you a particular wedding, a wedding photographer, how you select a wedding photographer. So I wanted to show you one particular guy that's really cool. His name is Chip Dessert. He does a lot of things, and he's a very good photographer and videographer. Okay, so let me show you his prices. So typically on their site, they'll call their packages investments. Okay, because it is an investment. If you want it done right, you want memories that last forever, you have to pay for it. So his packages start at $3,000. Okay, so we're not too far off the average. So we saw that the average was about $2,400. His packages start at $3,000, And he'll go on to tell you what that entails, what you'll get with that $3,000 package. So I'm not going to go into that detail. I'll actually leave his URL on the site so you can see it. But let's look at one of his weddings, okay? He does videography and photography. So, for example, here's one with Danielle and Adam. Now, Chip Dizzard is a local bride. A local photographer in the Baltimore or the DC area. So this is an example of one of his videographies, his video. Let's see, I need to turn the volume up. Where is it? And there's a little music on here.
I promise to be a loving wife. I promise to be your friend.
I promise to be your best friend.
I promise to be by your side, lending you my strength, giving you my support.
To be there in good times and bad times. I promise to be by your side, lending you my strength, giving you my support.
On the tough days, I want you two to look back on this day and remember everything that you felt.
So this is pretty cool, right? So this is what you can expect if you decide on a videographer. And in Chip's, what he calls himself is a wedding cinematographer, okay? And he does both, so he's taking shots and he's taking videos if that's part of the package you're paying for.
Cherishing is my gift.
Okay.
I will spend my years loving you and cherishing you as my gift. I'm ready.
You ready?
Yes.
Are you ready too, ladies?
Yes. Stay ready.
All right, so just wanted to give you a little taste of a real photographer's actual portfolio of work, and what you see in reference to his video. You see how those are his assistants in the back. So as he's taking videos, he's videotaping the event. He also has a couple of folks who's typically working with him that are also taking the shots, okay? If it's a combination, and he has cameras set up everywhere. So and that's part of the questions in the package that you ask for, because the more cameras, the more pictures, the more assistants, the more picture opportunities or photo opportunities, and of course more money. Okay, so all that to be considered. So what I'm going to do is to add that infographic to at the bottom in our comments, at the bottom at the end of this, and the link to Chip Dizzard's site, so that you have a point of reference of a typical photographer slash videographer, someone that does a little bit of both. So you can get an idea of rates, a price point, and he has different packages, so you get an idea of how much all this stuff will cost. Okay, so thank you guys for coming to 30 Days to Us, how to plan your wedding in 30 days, and thank you for listening to our topic, how to find a photographer slash videographer. Tomorrow we're going to talk about another vendor that you need to hire, such as the florist if you're going to have flowers, and your baker. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a great evening. Thanks for dropping by. Bye.